right, so thank you for coming here. Number one, I see a lot of lovely, beautiful, smiling faces, and I hope you stay smiling until the end of the session, because this is a very interactive session. You are going to come up with a lot of the work. And the reason why is that at the end of it, we are going to collect all these amazing ideas that you're going to produce with us, and they will all be part of a report that is conducted by Dubai Culture. This is a session that is being organized by Dubai Culture as well as DIDEC. How do you do? Dubai Islamic Economy. And then what happens with the D? Development Center. Woohoo! Good. So, welcome again. My name is Randa, and I will be your dungeon master. And we have 4 amazing panelists. They are sitting among you, right? So this is, you can already tell this is very different from a different panelist discussion, because yes, they are going to share part of their wisdom, and they are really, really amazing people, but they're also going to encourage you to share your own. So I do want you to put all your best in the ideas that we are bringing in. All right, so here is the workflow of the hour, or actually 40 minutes, I could say. So the first part, we are going to hear from our panelists, and then we are going to start collaborating or coming up with ideas, and we are focused on the creative skills. In general, when we say education, it means learning in general, but it also could mean in your education years. So however you want to interpret it, it's up to you. But it's what are those skills that you have, that you need, that you want to make sure that other people have it. So this is where you're going to share your ideas. And we have a tool, and I will explain to you how to use that tool in a moment. But that tool needs you just to come up with all the different ideas in your mind, as well as reading what other people are coming up with, adding your own part, and then collaborating. Once we're done with that part, and it only takes 10 minutes, not that much, we are going to squeeze our brains a little bit more, add a little bit more dopamine hormone in our heads, and then find ways of collaborating different fields. You are all coming from worlds apart, geographically, career-wise, ethnic-wise, everything. So how can you look at different fields, different ways of looking at the same problem, and come up with one unique solution? So the second part of this workshop will be a very qualitative approach, and you can do it with other people on the table, with the person next to you, or if you have something in your head, you want to put it out. We are going to collect all the ideas, then please go ahead and do that. And then finally, we'll just close off, give a quick summary of everything that was going on. I will collect any email. I do have my iPad at the end. I will pass it along. Any email who wants to receive that report, I will make sure that you get it once it's ready. So you will see the result of all the work that has been going on, as well as the different ideas that moved on with it. So far, so good? All right, good. So we are going to start with a fascinating woman, and Sadiq Ajumma. Sadiq Ajumma, she is award-winning visual artist, and coming all the way from the UK, she not only won the Global Art Award for Best Painting for Diversity, but also the Leonardo da Vinci Award for Universal Artist. And she's known for her Make Your Mark project, which is also at the end, you can check it out there. So the number one question that Sadiqa is usually asked is like, where do you get your inspiration from? So we want to ask her that question. In addition, how can we, normal people, know where to get our inspiration from? How can we have our own visual library and use that whenever we need, when we are actually going through our own creative processes? So Sadiqa, if you want to stand up, show us. Yes.
Turn this on. Is the first?
It's on.
Oh, it's on.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That is a question, as Randa says, I'm asked very, very regularly. And it kind of, in a way, made me think of how do I come up with ideas when I'm painting. And it's, the mind is a very funny thing. We collect data, and the idea is to be able to sift that data, and the idea also is to kind of teach ourselves to notice, to see. I mean, we look at things and we just scan. But if we can somehow pick bits and store it in this little box where we can then access it later on, we can train ourselves to kind of fill that box with very, very fascinating things that we see around us. An example, my daughter gave me a chopping board, and it had lots of little boxes, colorful boxes. And to me, that felt as if the diversity of people, and in fact, it was that kind of designed my most known painting. Now, that, and then compare it with perhaps you're walking down in the park and you see a tree trunk, and you see the circles, and if somehow you can connect the two, you pick that, and you pick the colors, and you pick the cracks, and you somehow store it in this magical box that you have in your brain. And before you know it, when you're faced with a blank canvas, you open that box, and it's amazing. In a way, you're unlocking all that visual database that you walk around. It's only if we can just kind of pause and look rather than just scan. I think that is a very, very good way of building up your visual database that you can call upon anytime. Is my time up, or can I just continue to babble on?
You want another 30 seconds?
Well, okay, I'll have 30 seconds. Yeah, if you can, in a way, when you are going on with your daily life, all right, perhaps every few minutes or whatever, just make a mental note of something. I tell you what, it's come to a stage now where I'm so busy in my daily life, if I want to remember something, I visually tell myself, or I remind myself that, look, I've put this here, I've put my keys here, and it's the only way I'll remember that I've put my keys here. You can do the same thing with the visual things you see. You see that the global Islamic economy, you've got those buildings behind you. Make a mental note of it. And, that will just teach you and help you to kind of build this visual database. Yeah. And it's funny when you see so many different things because, subhanAllah, if we look around us, we have such beauty around us. If we can somehow store all that, at the end of the day, it's amazing. That's the way I would do it.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the idea of, thank you very much, Sadiqa. Yes, absolutely. I love the idea how you have a mental note of something that you can recover later and you can bring it forth. I learned once that not only if you can create the if-then, so if I see this image or if I see this topic, then I will remember this. And then your brain is programmed basically. So once you do see that crack again or that tree, and you've said, if I see it again, I will use this in this topic, then your brain will immediately bring that to so you can actually harness your brain to work with you. Exactly like a disorganized filing cabinet. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sadiqa. So moving on here, and I know that this person has a lot of inspiration and she knows where to find her inspiration. So Reem Hantoush Al-Ali, she's an architect. She is a social activist when it comes to youth empowerment and education. She's on the advisory board of different leadership and youth councils and foundations. You can read her bio. It's a beautiful bio. But I think in addition to that, she's involved in the holistic thing. So With Hope is one organization that she's a vice chancellor with that focuses on mental health. She works in Abu Dhabi in the urban planning department, but interns in the Ministry of Education in Dubai. So that just tells you that she is actively looking for her inspiration. And maybe your question will help us understand, Reem. So what are, based on what you have seen, what are those challenges and those opportunities that you see in front that maybe people can learn what kind of skills to have in order to be ready for them, for the challenges or to make use of the opportunities? So please, Reem.
I'm going to stand up so everyone can see me. Thank you, Randa, and Assalamu alaikum. I think there is a lot of challenges, and of course, the world today is changing or has changed drastically in the last century, as really technology revolution is really shifting the nature of the workforce in across all kind of sectors and industries. And there is this physical and virtual worlds kind of meet, and it has been defined as the fourth industrial revolution. Of course, most of you all know that a lot of today's jobs are disappearing altogether. Others are getting displaced, and some new jobs are getting created. And this is causing a major skills gap in today's labor market. And there's a recent study that says approximately 21 million new jobs are going to be created in the next decade. So that says a lot. So I graduated in 2013 as an architect engineer, and I was taught all about the art and science of designing and engineering large structures and buildings, both of which require a lot of artistic abilities and mathematical, proficiencies. And when you look at engineering and architecture nowadays, it has advanced a lot, where it really proposes more of a multidisciplinary and multi-scalar approach. It kind of requests the learners to really move on to more of a transversal field, and you start to require additional or different kind of skill sets to really advance in that educational journey. And of course, after graduation comes, the workforce. And after I graduated, the first year was a bit difficult for me because when I went there, I didn't have some basic skill sets that was kind of lacking. Those skill sets I had to learn along the way. Some of them were soft skills, communication skills, confidence, social skills, life skills that really wasn't part of my education, and I had to learn it along the way. And it was interesting when I read that the World Economic Forum survey in the GCC kind of stated that only 22% of the respondents said that education really helped them to really succeed in their career. Only 22% said that. And that really says that there's a big, challenge that we're facing here today, not only in fostering talent in students, but also how can we really have that we're having a lack of creative skills that are more relevant to the 21st century that we can really apply to our day-to-day basis and our workplace. So what can we really do now to really prepare the next generation of youth? And I think there's a really big opportunity in the education field here in the UAE. And the UAE government has a big, ambitious education modernization agenda. Today, there is this very big reform happening in the public schools. And I think the opportunity really lies there in making education and training more flexible in terms of teaching new skills relevant to the 21st century. And not only that, but also emphasizing on lifelong learning skills and on-the-job training, and more widening the application of online learning tools and platforms, and also bringing more of a video gaming style stimulations into the learning. So I think the education system it requires or needs designing. And I think the UAE is really in a great position to lead this movement or paradigm on a global level.
Thank you. Thank you, Reem. And I loved how the idea of reforming our whole education system. I have a problem with the way that we invented the schools. That was like last centuries during the industrial era, when we had to, ship things all the time, and we're still shipping students all the time. And I think the best one to speak about reform is our next guest. So Thomas Steele Maley, you're a foresight researcher, so you have access to peek into the future and then come back and tell us a little bit about it, because you also designed the ecology of education system. So what can you tell us about the different opportunities that businesses, especially in the Islamic economy industry, and how can they connect with the youth, and how can we build those bridges?
Great, thank you, and thank you for having me. So there are three, large buckets that I want to concentrate on quickly. One is already been touched on a bit, and that's that we actually need to re-theorize the contexts of education. So it's not changing a school here and there. It's not, bringing some robotics into the schools. It's not putting a little coding here and there. It's actually to start revisioning what education is for, why we're doing it, and in the context of the Islamic world, what we can actually leap, as it was mentioned this morning. There's no real reason to follow the same path that every other country and every other region has taken when it comes to education. That it's Western, most generally, that we see today. It goes through a scope and sequence. It has a certain fixed amount of years, and there are a fixed amount of subjects that will give you a fixed amount of degrees. And so when we think about those contexts, we really need to start shifting those. And that starts with you as business leaders. It really starts with the people who are in charge and the people who are in charge of their families saying, yes, I want something different and I'm going to support that difference. And so it brings me to the second point, which is actually that there are things going on right now. And there are things that I'm involved in, for instance, in the UAE right now under the leadership and collaboration of the Executive's Office, the National Council of Education and Human Resources, which are radical reconceptions of education. And they're being made possible by the UAE and the dispositions that we heard earlier. And so when you find out about those types of new pathways of education, to support those, when we talk about going beyond IB, beyond AP, beyond A-levels, if you start to conceptualize what that really means, you're going to be on a pathway of supporting something that has the possibility of radical change, or even the change that's actually just basic and necessary. The third gets down to the granular level, and that is that when we think about new forms of K-12 education, let's say just 9-12, so just 14 to 18-year-olds coming into businesses, the way you see those young people is going to be different. The way that you treat them in internships, the way that you treat them in new types of residencies, the way that you mentor those students for the creative world looks a lot different than the apprenticeship models that we have. We have great examples of Germany, for instance, where young people are infused in the different businesses. But the creative economy is different. It's not quantified. It's not showing up every day and checking in with a punch card, learning some skill at a machine and going home at the end of the day, learning how to be a good worker. This is infusing the creativity of unlocked minds, for instance, Generation Z minds, into your business, and using that new, fresh energy, but also allowing that creativity to flourish where it can. So really new contexts of education, supporting those projects that are out there that are actually doing it on the ground now. And then when you're approached, taking it back to your teams and talking about how you can infuse young people in new ways into creative industries or your industry in general. So,
thank you. Thank you very much. I love the unlock mind analogy. What do you get when you unlock it? We don't know. So it's a surprise. And we have here, where are you, Arfa? Oh, you're here. Sorry, zoom in, zoom out. So Arfa Farouk is a business strategist, actually. He's a creative business strategist. And you're looking at the same topic, but from a different point of view, because you're a co-founder of Muslim Makers. You're also a fellow of the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust. You worked in different projects that involved women in technology, coding bootcamp, as well as a traveler vlogger to incorporate everything. So how do you see the connection? How do you see the opportunities building the creative business, the creative industry with the youth? And where do you see it?
Cool. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So as mentioned, I've done lots of different random things. And the key skills that I've definitely drawn upon are collaboration, resilience, adaptability, and flexibility. I'd say those are the skills of the future because we don't know what the future jobs are. So we've got to prepare young people to be able to bounce back, to be flexible, to adapt. Now I want to start off with a question. What does creativity actually mean? Because you see, for me, growing up, I thought creativity was about art. I thought it was graphic design. I thought it was drawing, making things with your hand. But as I've kind of gone through, I guess, life, I've realized I've always actually been a creative. The way I process things, the way I approach problems. And that's been really interesting. Now, the Islamic economy, right? It's a values-based system. Young people only really want to work for companies that are morally great, values aligned. So already, actually, you can easily appeal to young people. And if anything, I'd say the Islamic economy is a pioneer for the way the economy is currently heading. Now, how do we actually match young people up with business and businesses to work together? Where I basically work, we have a program called Young Braves, where what we do is we take young people and match them up with different brands. The brands get access to ideas, innovation. The young people, in turn, get paid for the work they do. They get access to opportunities. So what I will say is let's forget the big skills program, the government initiatives, those type of things. Let's see where we can start now. Let's focus in on the micro, what we can do today. Now the vision, a shared future. 20 years from now, I'm going to be in my 40s. Somebody in their 40s is going to be in their 70s and retired. It's going to have a lot of time on their hands. So how can we, as multi-generations, work together? So I may not inspire or change the world, but I might inspire somebody to do so. So what I will say is start now and think about how we can work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Arfa. And I love the idea of micro do it, like one at a time. And this is exactly where we're heading now. So I want you all. It can't happen if just a few of you come up with ideas. We need all your ideas. So using the sheets on your table, and if you don't have one, just raise your hands. I'll get it to you. You just read the question on top. Basically, what are the creative skills that we need in education? Don't be confined in education, in schooling. Education, think of it in learning. What are the creative skills? What is needed? What is not needed? What can we make use without? Put down whatever you need more. Yes, I'll get it to you. Put down whatever idea that you have, one per box, because it will be easier for us to number them at the end. And then just make sure, I have it here. And then make sure that you read other people's ideas. So just your ideas is not enough. You want to write something and then swap it with someone else, read what they have, add to it, change it, build on it. So we want every single mark on the table. So I'll give you 10 minutes. Your host for the table is your speaker. And so we have 2 tables with 1 host, and I'll be roaming around. If you have any questions here, Nura, Paula. If you have any questions, please just raise your hands, and someone will attend to you. You need more? Absolutely. المربعات.
I need 5 more pages.
If you want, you can. If you got stuck, you can just put your paper, take someone's essence paper, and definitely it inspires you.
It's a kind of brainstorming.
Yeah, and it's more a quiet thing where everyone writes it down. At the end, it's all going towards how can we somehow shift that thinking of how we perhaps look at education now, change that, perhaps we can get a different way of entering some sort of education. Does that make sense? Yeah, but I think this is what I think. But as mentioned, build the box with any ideas that you want. And if you want now, then you can ourselves make things.
better for me for my ideas, or is
It needs to be
this
part
is cheating, by the way?
big idea.
You take my ideas and then you sell it.
Put it, registered and put your
Registered
name
my
so
name.
this is
Copyright.
copyright,
I'm a lawyer. This is why. Specialized in copyright.
Okay, and if you need these to kind of
Keep in mind, there's no stereotype. In life, you're trying to have quantity. Might not ever comes to your mind. Whatever you can say, just maybe change
Which company?
He's so low.
He's a lawyer.
He's a low.
Sorry.
He's so low.
change urban planning of the cities.
But I think
Replace that with urban
the role
planning.
of excellence is already out there for
A
Paris.
good idea.
I think in the most high achieving schools that a lot of subject areas are used as vehicles to develop these life skills such as creativity, such as critical thinking, such as problem solving. I
going to be in 10 years' time, we look at that model that I was saying before. These words might be able to, maybe the world is going to be a different place. Let's say. So are we going to need to equip our students of tomorrow differently? Because now we're getting into a digital age, we're getting into information, we're getting into where the skills of having nailing your house, think that now we need,
Well, I said learn from our mistakes. How can we learn from our mistakes?
I don't know whether it's mistakes, it's just a different type.
No, in general, in the learning process,
Yeah.
how can we learn from our mistakes? That can help us.
Hopefully sessions like this, where we put our minds together,
I've already written here. I mean, I learned, I read this in a book, and they said they split the two groups of people. They were supposed to make some vases, some, from clay, right? One group was supposed to make the perfect one, and they spent as much time as they wanted to make one or two, but perfect. The other group, their purpose was to do as many as possible, no matter how many groups. And this is who, exactly, that's who. But I think the people here means
Ideas come in.
what feels interesting is actually let's put everything down, and then what we will do is say, yeah, exactly.
No.
If someone is not has empty boxes, maybe.
You can share some.
If someone is stuck, they can change tables. They can read their ideas and maybe get inspired. No one wants to change
Okay, sure. I can change, but I finished the paper. I'm sorry. If you are going to write something.
Read this. If you can, yeah.
So he should not. You will not give the paper to them. Okay, he will think that I'm insane. So with the idea.
So 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes to try to come up with as many ideas as you can, and read other people's ideas. Then we're going to close off. We don't have time for the next one.
Yeah, there are certain fonts you can't read. The challenge would be like humanizing the handwriting and ourselves first. Because like there's a huge, I think, disconnection. Like the more we move towards, of course, it depends on what we do.
add your email and I'll make sure that I also get
my
that.
viewpoint on it, we have to have a real strong sense of relevance
So last 30 seconds, put down the last ideas that you have, and then drop the pencil.
Is that like a what is your favorite so I can
All right. So we're good? How do you feel? You feel good? Yes. Do you know that coming up with ideas does something to your body? Do you know what that is? It excites? How does it excite? Do you know? Yes. So when you are doing it on your own, you actually start the generator. And when you're actually throwing ideas back and forth, you're sparkling things. But when you're sparkling physically, your body produces the dopamine, which is your happiness hormone. It is rarely that you actually start coming up with ideas and getting excited about it, then you don't feel happy. So that's the best thing that I always get in my sessions. I have happy people, and I like to surround myself with happy people. So I want us to do a quick summary. I will ask for your host, your facilitators, to give us like a general idea, what were the ideas about, if you have any. So who would like to start? From here to there, who's ready? Okay, so if you just give us like a brief round of what happened.
Okay, so the main thing that we came, I didn't get to spend as much time as here as we were having conversations there, but the main thing that came out from it is that, there are problems, and how can we learn from our problems, and how can we then move forward? So it was a good thing that perhaps we, and I hope I'm kind of representing it in a right way, that we actually perhaps realize that we are at a stage now, and what do we need to go to the next stage? Because the next stage is different to what it is now. It's going to be different. So what do we do to perhaps equip for the next generation, for the next learning? Yeah?
Thank you. Who's next? Reem, do you want to go next? Or can you designate someone?
I've been trying to be very competitive and make them to finish the boxes that I didn't even read one idea. Does someone want to say something? One idea. Just one of the...
In fact, I had written like 25 ideas and I cannot remember one of it now. So let me try to read what I had written. By the way, we have like here 50 pages. Wow. So, okay. One idea, which is, I believe we have to stop learning at the schools. We have to start learning at home or wherever we want to learn and experimenting at schools. So another idea was, in fact, somehow giving responsibilities to the students, making them mentors and mentees, even from the very early childhood, so that they start getting responsibility of the others. And also don't exaggeration of use of technology, but also don't underestimating it. That's it.
All right, so Arfa, you want to go ahead?
Lastminute.com. Okay, so I think I've just had a quick whiz through all the amazing ideas that the two tables have come up with. Some of the recurring themes that I've picked up is, I guess, teaching people that it's okay to fail and building in a growth mindset. And also traveling and seeing different ways of doing things, and it doesn't have to actually kind of be far. Again, I guess it's about taking people outside their comfort zone. I also saw stuff around role models and kind of more kind of workshop, hands-on based stuff, and again, exposing to creative ideas, connecting with startup founders to, I guess, kind of bridge the gap between things.
And I love how you improvised when you don't have paper, you just drew the boxes and filled in the paper. I love that. Yes. So, yes, you designated someone? Please, go ahead, Mo.
No worries. Thank you. So we've got... So the ideas that resonated with this table the most, individually we shared what they were. So one of them was have students be curious about how nature resolves problems through case studies or field trips. Just get them to understand how that works. Incentivize creative activity. So if a child is taking photographs at a young age, incentivize that. So instead of getting them to clean the house, maybe give them something for creating, beautiful photographs. Allocate time for creativity. Try and share best practices from local and global initiatives. So be intentional about encouraging experimentation, linking people to outside efforts so you don't duplicate things. Develop values and create appropriate role models because there's a lot out there that isn't appropriate. And be concise and aware of the medium that you use and ensure that you don't create fear-based education through exams. That's all. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, a couple of things that we came up with at our table was developing practical skills, communication, the art of storytelling, giving global perspectives at an early age, collaboration, promoting creativity, changing the ancient curriculum, the current curriculum, which is ancient and too structured. Look into those countries that are doing it successfully, Finland. Something about virtual global classrooms. Something that came up was practitioners from the field, giving real-time, real experience advice to students as opposed to just learning about different fields theoretically. What else do we have? We have, same practical skills, developing practical skills, more a friend-type engagement as opposed to teacher-student.
Brilliant. So you will hear, or you're able to read all those ideas if you make sure I get your email. There is a pink iPad. Can someone show where is the iPad? So I'm being told we need to end this session. So I will be at the Dubai Culture stand. Just make sure to pass by to give your email to make sure I get that to you. In the end, I really, really want to thank you. This has been incredible. I could not do it without every single person in the room contributing to it. And the sheets, the books that you just wrote are just a testimony of what happened. So do not take those sheets with you. Please leave them on the table or give them to your host, and I'll make sure I get them. And thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.